I do want to say thank you to Pastor and Overflow Church and Kim who allowed me to come today. I was a few years ago in a full mom meltdown. Has any ever moms been there where you're crying? You're like, I've never raised my kids like this. How did this happen? And I was telling a friend and crying to her and trying not to take on all the mom guilt. And I said out loud to her, they don't tell you these things at baby showers. And so this word has been brewing in my mind for the last few years of the things they don't tell you at baby showers. And as soon as it rolled off my lips, I knew that God was speaking to me. So, men, I would like to fill you in on baby showers if you've never been. First of all, a baby shower is filled with beautiful women of all ages and life experiences, various relationships with the mom. Of course, there is food overflow. They play games like take the clothespin and put it on your shirt, and you can't say like the secret words and the mom and the baby's name. And some women are very vicious. They will manipulate you to get that clothespin. They also want to wrap your stomach in toilet paper because they have to see how many squares of toilet paper will go over your belly. And baby bingo, whereas the mom is opening up the gifts, they're like marking it off. And if you are at a very wild baby shower, has anybody been to a wild baby shower? They make you eat baby food. They make you drink out of baby bottles. And I have been to one where they melt chocolate in diapers, and they want you to taste it to see. Baby showers can be all different ways, right? And if they are a first-time mom, they have to have everything that Target sells when it comes to babies, right? They have to have everything for the latest trends. They have most expensive things. Like, they just need the top and the best of the best, right? But when it is your second, third, and even fourth baby, what do we want? Diapers, right? All we want. That's all we need. We'll figure everything else out. They'll sleep in a drawer, but I just need diapers, right? And at baby showers, there is information overload. I remember at my baby shower, they are telling me the worst case scenarios when it comes to babies. The best teething advice, get them to sleep, the way to fix all their poop problems, best way to feed them, what's wrong with them, what's right with them, how should you pump, breastfeed, formula, cry it out, let them sleep with you, and of course, all of the birthing stories. The stories of when you were a baby from the moms, which diaper brands you should use, how to set up the nursery. The list of advice goes on and on. Am I right, ladies? Yes. So I do not want to paint a bad picture of baby showers because of the core of them, they are to celebrate life. Right? And God says in Psalms 127:3 that children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Him. So no matter what stage of parenting you're walking through, this is the core of our Father's heart, is that children are a gift and a reward from Him. So I would like to take a walk down memory lane and of different stages of motherhood that I have walked through this morning. Not to be the one to tell you how to raise kids. I'm not that one, because I know in this room there are many great mothers, grandmothers, aunts, spiritual mothers, friends, and women who have far greater insight and experience than I. But God has shown me one big theme, and as I reflected over these many stages I'm going to share with you, I want you to see if you can pick up on the theme of today's message. And I do want to have a little cliff note here. I did ask my kids permission for all of these stories, okay? So make sure they don't take me down after church, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, so the newborn infant stage, Eric and I met. And 2 weeks after I met him, I moved in with him. And one of the things, and we've been together ever since, but one of the things that Eric and I agreed on very early on is that neither one of us wanted to have any children. That just wasn't what we wanted to do. So when I was 21 years old with my first baby, I remember being scared out of my ever-living mind. I remember when they placed her in my arms, and I just cried. Everything in that moment changed. my perspective, and I was now responsible for this human life to feed her, make sure her poop's the right color, the umbilical cord's clean, and to spend every moment watching her sleep. Any other moms did that? Just like make sure their stomach is going up and down, right? So we were entrusted with this beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde hair baby, and when she was born, the world stopped, and our focus was all on her. The only thing that we did not have control of was her sleeping. This chick never slept. And Eric and I never slept. And we agreed, we are not letting this girl take us out. So we divide and conquer, and we still have these same sleeping patterns, Eric and I, and it's very helpful now that we have 3 teenagers. But Eric would take the night shift, and I would take the morning shift. So every night, the only way to get her to sleep is to walk up and down the hallway going, shh, 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 shh. And then the minute you laid her down, it was over with. So much so that we were like sleep deprived. We even came up with a song that I'm going to sing with you all of how we got Kimberly to sleep right in a car or just basically any way in life. And we sing this song over and over and over again. And it is Kimberly May, Kimberly May, Kimberly May Labonte. Your God knows just like your dad. Oh, Kimberly May Labonte. And we sang that over and over and over again. We learned very quickly that there can be as many books as possible on a shelf about getting babies to sleep, but very little worked with our little blue-eyed girl. This was one thing in raising an infant that we just did not have control over. The next phase are toddlers. When I was writing this, I said my whole body just went like this, like when I said the word toddlers. My body was exhausted because at the time of having the 3, they were all toddlers at one time. Eric worked full-time during the day, and he would go to school at night. And so I was alone with the 3 of them 24/7. And I know that they say 2s are terrible, but I don't believe that. I just think they can't tell you what they want, and so they just throw tantrums, right? But 3s are the worst because they can tell you what they want, and they still give you a tantrum. And when they turn 5, they speak 60,000 words before breakfast. So toddlers are busy, and they're active, and they're full of adventure, and they see life in such a beautiful, innocent way. But 2 of my kids gave me a run for my money. If you've ever been around me for Vacation Bible School, youth group, as a teacher, I have 3 rules that I tell to the kids. Number 1, don't go to the hospital. It's full of blood, guts, needles. Nobody needs to go there. Number 2, build up or hush up. And number 3, be respectful. And those 3 rules were birthed from Allison and Noah Labonte. My daughter Allison continued to show me that I had absolutely no control, not over her clothes, which still runs true today, or her will. If I said we need to go left, she darted right before I even finished the sentence. She was always getting into stuff and just a tad rebellious. She had her own language, so we say she spoke Chinese because we had no idea what she said for like the first half of her life. And she would yell at us, and we'd have no idea what she was saying. So I have so many wild and testing of patience stories I could share about Allison, but this story that I'm going to share with you is exactly how much control I did not have over her. So my friend Amber and Craig Allen down in Florida, they were our best friends, especially as we began to be new believers. And I love my friend Amber Allen. She is so creative and eclectic and paint everywhere and just like sees the whole world in color. And I just love that about her. Now her husband is 100% complete opposite. He gets excited about cleaning supplies. He loves to vacuum. He vacuums his rug like 5 times a day just because he literally loves the lines in the carpet. And so we went to an ugly sweater party at their house, and we were having such a great time. It felt good to be like grown-ups, because remember, I had 3 toddlers. And Allison, with her crazy language, came up to me and had black hands and black all over her shirt. And I discreetly pulled her to the side and said, Allison, why do you have black on you? Why do you have black on you? And she came and pulled my arm and walked into Craig and Amber's formal living room, which has white walls, white couches, white pillowcases, and she had found Amber's black acrylic paint and had painted all over the walls, the couch, the whole 9 yards. So my stomach dropped to my throat, or go up to my throat. And I remember going to Amber and saying, you are never going to be my friend ever again after this, and it's totally okay. I understand, and I am so sorry. And she said, Summer, I need you to leave. Take your kids and just go. She goes, I love you. We'll talk about this later. She said she just didn't want for us to see Craig when he saw it. So So when I got a phone call from her later, she said that Craig saw it, got into the car, and drove for hours and did not come home. And, and when he came home, he said, I love Allison Labonte so much, and there is nothing that she could do that will ever make me stop loving her or the Labontes. And so I think they repainted and got a new couch, and we threw away the pillows, that I remember. But anyways, I do want to say that I'm a part of his recovery, because since then, he has now gotten dogs and guinea pigs, and it doesn't have to be, his house doesn't have to be as clean. So we joke now that Allison and God changed his whole life right then and there. It was an intervention. Right, Allison? All right. I also think about Noah in this season. Well, look at that cute boy. This picture right here, he goes, Mom, this is the way my teacher looks at me every day. And so he was my first boy, so sweet, and truly he was like the best toddler, right? The best kid. And it was my first time being a boy mom. So I learned very quickly how long you'll wait in the ER, depending on the amount of blood that's coming out of them. Because by the time Noah was 7 years old, he had busted his chin running through the church, got his finger cut in a lawn chair and ripped the whole tip of it off. He busted the corner of his eye and playing at Chick-fil-A playground, Jesus' playground, fell and hit a handle and ripped his ear off from behind. Yeah, it was pretty gross. So it didn't matter how many times I caught Noah, he still fell. There were moments that I couldn't always be there to catch him. I had zero control in these moments. I quickly learned in the toddler years, we can set bedtimes, try to convince them to eat their vegetables, which I still haven't got Allison to do, or pick up their toys. But truly, there is not a lot of control. And Noah and Allison showed me this in a lot of ways. I would also like to take this time to address a very tough season in my life. And truly, this is the first time that I've talked about it publicly and from the pulpit. After having 3 amazing kids, and yes, I am very biased. My 3 older kids are pretty amazing. I thought my baby years were over. The kids were all in school. No more diapers. Oh, do you guys remember that feeling, like no more diapers and baby food? Thank the Lord. My life was taking on a new chapter. I was going to go to school, finish going to school, and I was going to get a job and write and have some independence. But one morning, I dropped Noah off at preschool, and I got sick, and I instantly knew what was going on. After a few tests that confirmed, I was pregnant. My first set of feelings were anger and bitterness and just being sad. I know that babies are a blessing, but I was going to have to start all over. And to be honest with you, 4 kids really seems like a lot of work. But as the weeks went on, the kids were getting so excited. Allison had named our son Toby. Kimberly couldn't wait to be a big sister, and Noah was excited for another baby brother. And I think there's, yep, there you go, 1 plus 1. So I went to lunch with some friends, though, over a weekend, and I needed to use the bathroom. And as I went into the bathroom, I knew that something wasn't right. I went to the ER, and I was met with some not so great news. I prayed, and I begged, I pleaded, I cried. I was angry. There were moments of strength and moments of letting the world pass me by. After the process of losing our son was over, God met me in the valley. I remember saying to him, I gave you my life. I devoted my entire life for you, and you couldn't save my son. You couldn't save me and my family from this heartache. And there were so many conversations that God and I had for several months. But in the end, this is what I knew to be true. And he made it very clear to me that he is a faithful God in every season. But in the season, thank you. But in this season of grief and loss and emotions, I had zero control. I couldn't will my way out of this. I couldn't change the circumstances. And I don't think that miscarriages are talked about often. And I know for many women, it is a very hard subject to talk about. And there's not a situation in my life where I felt so helpless. I couldn't protect or change the heartache for my husband and kids who were walking, nor could I change the crushing feeling in my own heart. The loss of our son will always be a season that I look back with such loss, but it did show me I have zero control. And for our family, what this season showed us is that we could open up our hearts for another kid. So 15 months later, we welcome the heart of our family. Micah is not a consolation prize for a loss, but what God turning what was meant for evil for good. If you follow our family adventures, whether on Facebook or through the halls of this church, look at that cute boy. All right. You will know that Micah is so dearly loved. We adore that raspy little voice, his giggles all the way from his tummy, and how he is an absolute, we call him a rascally rabbit. I adore Kimberly taking him out on dates and going to fast food and going to get ice cream at night. I love that AJ will say, Micah, get into bed, and they sit and snuggle and watch TV and movies, and how Noah and him are just boys 24/7. Micah is the exclamation point mark to our family sentence. And I will say I adore how much you all love him. It brings me so much joy going up to kids' church, and they're like, and Micah. And I'm like, I know, I love him. But he is the absolute best gift that God has given us, all of our kids are, to bring them together. Our teenage years. So of all the years so far of raising my kids, this really truly is my favorite part of raising kids. I also teach this age at school, so I'm kind of like a little partial. They are so cool, but so awkward. They care about clothes, but deodorant is optional and forced, especially in my room. They are so full of fun, opening to try new things, forming their own opinions, trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into their circle of friends and family. They are juggling so many emotions, insecurities, and even finding their own voices. The hardest part for me, look at those cute kids. So the hardest part for me is this transition in this age of where they listen to everything you say and they're like, yeah, Mom, you totally got it going on, to the famous words of, I got it, I don't need it, I understand, all of those, I can do this on my own and I don't need you, right? Tears. For me, this season, especially with my oldest daughter, Kimberly, is when I realized how much control I did not have. None. Because if I had control in this season, Noah would turn in his homework after I have nagged him all weekend to do it. His room and his locker would not smell like a gym. In this season, we have a choice to walk beside them and discipline them, or to try to control and manipulate everything in their world. The season of adolescence is not talked about very often, and I always say I wish that you know how they have MOPS groups, like Moms for Preschools? Oh, I wish they had a MOT, a MOT group, Moms of Teenagers, where they give us chocolate and tissues, and we could sit and talk about all the ways that our teenagers don't need us anymore, right? And hugs. We need hugs, teenage moms. Moms who have teenagers, sorry. Okay, so raising teenagers, especially in this current world, is very hard for parents. We can easily criticize and be frustrated with the current generation, or we can build into them and even build into their family structures. With 3 kids currently in this stage, I have had to learn very quickly that I need to stop grasping and holding on to, but letting go. My friend Mary in the Bible, we're best friends, had to learn this very same lesson when Jesus was 12 years old. The writer Luke was the only New Testament author who wrote the only glimpse of Jesus in his teenage years. In Luke 2:41 and 52, it says, "Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to the custom. And when the feast was ended, they were all returning, but the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents did not know it, but supposing him to be in the group, they went a day's journey, but then they began to search for him among their relatives and acquaintances. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem searching for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. And when his parents saw him, they were astonished, and his mother said to him, 'Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been searching for you in great distress.' And he said to them, 'Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?' And they did not understand the saying that he spoke to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. And his mother treasured all the things in her heart. God bless her. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man." So for 12 years, Jesus took this trip. He knew exactly what happened. When the donkeys are all loaded up and ready to go, mom and dad says, whatever, it's 8 o'clock, we're going. He has, for 12 years, has went to Nazareth. And he also Jerusalem. And when they all left, he knew exactly what time, the meeting place, let's get on the donkeys, let's go back home, right? After traveling all day, Mary and Jesus went to look for their son, and they could not find him with his cousins, his friends, or family. This is a total mom panic for me. I remember one Sunday morning telling all the kids to get into the car, and we arrived here at Overflow, and I kept saying, "Noah, where are you? Get out of the car. Stop messing around." To realize he was not in the car. So I drove back to my home really fast to find Noah on the porch crying, saying, "Mom, you left me." And I know, I was like, "I know, I'm so sorry." So I know that a lot of us have maybe we got lost or lost one of our kids. I know Eric still has a story that scars him today. But in verse 48, I just want to sit on verse 48 and 49 this morning. Mary says to Jesus, "Son, why have you treated us so?" The word son here means child. And I think that we have all been on the receiving side of the word child, right? That when your mom looks at you and says, "Child," why? Where your stomach sinks, right? You start feeling a little sick. And because you know that you are in what? Trouble. We are in trouble. So, oh, I flipped the wrong way, sorry. In Luke 48, he also writes that Mary was distressed. And as I looked up this word distressed, in the NLT version, it says frantic. In the NIV version, it says anxiously. In the King James version, it says sought thee sorrowing. I think that we would all agree that Mary was all of these things. When I looked up this word of what it truly means, it says that Mary was in deep mental pain trauma. Mary was in a state of frantic and frustration, and it's totally understandable. She did not know where Jesus was for 5 days. She traveled a day there, traveled a day back, and searched for him for 3 days. How would we all feel if we lost a kid for 5 days, right? Panicked. Oh my gosh, panicked, right? We don't know who he's with, where he's at, what's going on. How does Jesus feel, right? In all of the stories that I have shared about my own kids and all the stories you have about your children and adult children in your life, we can all agree that some moment in our life, we relate to Mary in all the deepest ways. Much like Mary, we realize at the moment that we have no control over what our children do. I mean, let's be real. Mary and Joseph are the parents, the earthly parents of Jesus. They were entrusted to raise him, teach him, protect our Savior, and they lost him. I would have been in a deep mental pain and anguish as well. As I thought about what they don't teach you at baby showers is what we can all be prepared. We can all be prepared and have this stuff. We can read the books. We can listen to all the advice, have all of our ducks walking somewhat in a row, right? But we have very little control. Not if their sleeping habits, not of their sleeping habits, their bumps and bruises, if they paint white walls and white couches, they don't clean their rooms, or like Jesus, they wander off from their families. But in verse 49, it gives us hope. And I can say, and I know us as moms are not allowed to giggle when our kids give us a comeback. You know what I'm saying? We scold them. They say something cute. Yesterday, Micah and I were raking the leaves out, and he goes, "This is going to take forever. I will be dead, and Jesus will be back before we finish this." I'm like, Micah, it is not that bad. And you know you're not supposed to giggle at these things, right? But I love Jesus' comeback. He says to his parents in verse 49, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know I'd be in my Father's house?" Isn't that a good comeback? Wouldn't we want all of our kids to say that, right? So, and this is where God spoke to my heart the day I was having a mom of a teenager meltdown. The truth he shared with me that I have been praying for years to tell you. The more I tried to intervene, the more I tried to fix, the more I tried to step in, the more I tried to manipulate, the more I said child, like Mary did to Jesus, the more control I tried to take, the worse it got. God reminded me that I do not have control, but what I truly have is prayer. The best place for Jesus to be at 12 years old and the best place our kids can be is in the presence of our Father, and we can day by day, minute by minute, place them at their feet, at God's feet, and trust him with it, because prayer changes everything. One of the things in parenting, and this is like a big, huge sentence that really just like went straight to my heart, and I think that this should give parents strength in prayer of your position. We do not have to beg, plead, or make deals with God when it comes to our kids. It can be so easy to fall into this pit that we have to bargain with God for our kids, as if our love for them is greater than God's love for them. He has given us truth, the word that is filled with promises for us, for our kids, their kids, to 3 and 4 generations. When we take a step back and pray over our children, there is a shift in relationship with your children. There was a shift in my home. You are now releasing them to their heavenly Father who can supply every one of their needs. Prayer changes everything. It was amazing for our household when I let go, which is, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so when I let go, got on my knees and prayed for my kids. When I prayed over them while they slept. When I prayed in their rooms when they left the house. When I send them text messages with prayers, I'm praying over them. When I pray over our house, the atmosphere in their lives change and in our household changes. My kids' eyes seemed to be open to what it was right and started hearing and being convicted by the Holy Spirit, and they were starting to speak truth in their own situations. They started making choices that were God-honoring. Speak life and truth to your kids. I wrote as I was praying this, I remember Pastor Bruce. Didn't matter what was going on. I would walk by him and he would grab my arm and he would say, "You are a woman of God." And he would speak truth after truth after truth of me. And that has left such a legacy in my own heart that when Micah is running around with underwear on his head, I will grab his cute little face and say, "You are his. You are chosen. You are loved. God loves you." And just speak that over Micah. We have the power to change, to speak life, to change the atmosphere in our homes. So at first I struggled, to be honest, of where to start by praying for them. I bought this little book at a bookstore. It's called The Power of a Praying Parent by Stormy Orman. She makes tons of these books. Power of Prayer for the stepmom, for the prodigal child, praying parents, and for the wife, women, all the books, right? This small book I wrote so many prayers and prayed his truths over my kids. I inserted their names in the truths as I was praying for them. Friends, this really is the secret to parenting. To get it right is praying over them and with them. When you do that, it shows your kids their position in God. It brings his promises and truths alive to their life. So what I admire about Overflow Church and what I love about this church from day one of coming here is that the heartbeat of this house is prayer. They value it. They know the worth of it. They are intentional. They create an atmosphere and an opportunity to pray and encourage prayer. Here we know at this house, we know the power of prayer. So with that said, today and right now is the best place to start praying over our children. Moms and grandmas, aunts, spiritual moms, friends of families, and the greatest legacy you can give the next generation is showing, telling, and praying the truth of who God is over our kids.